Hi, I'm going to go over real quick again. I have on another video, I think, shown how I move tools around. I did it originally with my router table, which I built. My router table, my workbenches, and a shelf back in this other kind of closet cabinet are all the same height. And so I put specific tools on MDF sheets, and they're about 20 inches by about 30 inches, something like that, the sheets are. And so all these tools fit on them, and what I put is my drum sanders on one, and there's a handle on both ends of it, so I can slide it off the item it's on onto my router table, and then move it over to the shelf, slide it back in the shelf, slide another one out. So the drum sander, spindle sander, the scroll saw, and also my about a year ago I bought a lathe. And so my lathe also is on a piece of MDF and slides off and on. Now, one of the things I did to help facilitate this, my table saw, when I bought a 36-inch setup for it. So the very end of it, about the last 18 inches or so, I have supported with a I bought it, I think, at Home Depot or something. It's a big screw type thing for scaffolding to make the legs go up higher. And what I did is I put a piece of 2-inch rigid pipe in it where the scaffolding leg would fit in, and then up above I have a piece of 4x4 with a big hole in it, and that 2-inch goes in that it's about a 1-inch deep hole, so it can't come out, and that holds up the end of my table saw, so I can support the 1224 drum sander that I have, because it's pretty heavy, and if I move something else there, it's just going to be supported by that piece of pipe. And yet I can take it off real quick if I want to move the table saw or whatever. Very seldom do I move it, but I do have to move it sometimes. Anyway, the thing that I've changed is, because originally I did not have a lathe, and I decided to buy a lathe, and oh, what fun that is. And so anyway, the problem with a lathe is they're pretty darn heavy, and you add your tools and everything else onto this, and you've got something very heavy. And so I went to Harbor Freight, and I don't buy much there because it seems to break down quickly. And but I started with my clamps there, and I literally don't use those anymore. But every once in a while, when I need extra, I've still got them. I didn't get rid of them. But at Harbor Freight, they have 2 tables that are hydraulic that lift up, and you can move them around. One of them's pretty small. The other one will lift over 1,000 pounds. So I think 1,500 pounds or something. And what I did is I built, it still didn't quite come up high enough, so I put 2x4s on the edge, so 3.5 inches all the way around, built a box around that, and then a platform, and that brought it up another 3.5 inches, and I can take it off real easy if I needed to. I never do. And so that's on there all the time, and I can slide all these things on that, move it up and down. It helps with the with my sander, my drum sander on the table saw, because the table saw is lower than all these other ones. But I can just run this down. I can take my lathe, I keep on there all the time. By the way, another thing that's handy with the lathe, sometimes you want the lathe at a different height, and this makes it easy to do. Depending on what you're working on. It's not the greatest hydraulic in the world. It does leak, but other than leaking periodically, and when I use the lathe, is I kick some of the sawdust underneath it and whatever. So, but it just drips very, very lightly. But you know, that's what you get what you pay for. So with it, I can slide my lathe over on the router table or one of my workbenches, and I can then lower it and pull the drum sander off the table saw if I need to, and do that. But the drum sander is usable right on the end, so I don't have to take it away from there to actually use it. I use it all the time on the table saw. So anyway, what is very handy too is I can take things out of, I don't have a pickup, but I have an old Tahoe, and I actually brought the table saw on the Tahoe, and you could pull 400 or 500 pound table saw off and just slide it with the box and all right onto this thing, and then come in your shop, move it around. It's on wheels, and then lower it and slide it off. So it has come in handy for some other things. When I built my bigger new bench, which I haven't really done a video on yet, the torsion top is made out of MDF, and 3/4 MDF sandwiched with some pieces in between, and then I did some things on top to be able to facilitate some clamping track. Very, very heavy, and I just slid it up on that thing, and I off the sawhorses that I built it on, slid it onto that, and then moved around back into my shop, jacked it up, slid it over on the cabinet part of my workbench that I made, or my assembly table, and boom, it's done. So anyway, I think that's about it. I will show you the different things that I can move around, just basically, and then I'm going to do a video on the lathe and how I do it, because I've got it really well organized. It actually works really well for me, and I'll do a video on that one next. Thank you. I'll be right back to show you the some of these things. Okay, here is my spindle sander, and you can see it's on a piece of MDF, and I can just slide that on there. Then here's my router table, which is the same height as my new assembly table, and you can see the new workbench over there, same height. So that works well, and it's real easy to move the router table around, even though it's very beefy. Also, here is my jet drum sander, and you can see it's on a piece of MDF with handles, and it just slides off if need be. And the support, what I was talking about down here, is that pipe that's down there, and it goes down to, I don't know if you can see it down there, but there is a scaffolding thing that adjusts it, and so it works really well. Then also I have back in there on this shelf that's the same height as all these other things, there's my scroll saw, and some other devices I can slide out. Here is the actual Harbor Freight table, and there's my lathe on it, and it carries that weight very, very easily. But that also, as you can see, it's on a board, a base that slides right off. And then the base I was talking about that has the 2x4s under it is that plywood shroud around the edge, and that just comes off if need be. So that's it on my Harbor Freight way of moving some of my things around, which is very helpful for me. Thank you.